What's going on, everybody? Got another video for you today, I hope. So what I'm doing today is going through all the splits I made and checking for mated queens and laying queens. Got eggs on this second frame, so this one's a success. Ended up making 202 splits total off of about a little less than 90 colonies, parent colonies. I did 3 rounds of queen cells grafted on different days. The last round of queen cells went in these splits May 6th. Today is May 24th. And all the queens are laying by now. Had a few that I could tell the bees probably killed the virgin coming out of my queen cell. So they've got either a virgin running around in there that they raised, or they've already got a laying queen that they raised. And I can tell just by either the lack of brood or the age of it. Like this one, we've got a little bit of capped brood already, so that's come from a queen that I put in there, or the queen cell I put in there at least. I'm trying to take extra time and be sure to find these queens because I'm marking them. I really like for my queens to be marked. The downside is it does take a lot of extra time. But the way I look at it, it's probably going to save me a lot of extra time next spring when I'm making splits. Because if y'all watched any of my previous videos about splitting it, the whole process goes a lot faster and easier when you find the queen. And there she is on the last frame. And these are Carniolan queens, so they're really dark. And she is there at the tip of my hive tool. So the color for 2023 is red, but I chose to go with this pink. It's real close to red, you know, but I think that bright pink's going to stand out more than that darker red would. I'm taking the mite strips out. That treatment's done. And since I found the queen and marked her, I'm going to put that same dot on the box so that I know to expect a marked queen in there, and put a C for Carniolan. Hell, I'm not seeing any eggs or brood in this one, so I'm guessing with the amount of bees still in here, I bet there's a virgin running around somewhere. I don't know what the deal was, but this end of the yard was a little rough. Had several virgins running around on this end. At the other end, where I started, it was great. Well, I didn't find anything, but if I was a betting man, I would say there's a virgin somewhere. So what I actually did this morning, what I should have done is last week I should have grafted another round of queen cells, and that way right now I would have a batch of ripe cells ready to be placed. And I could have used them up in all these units that are queenless or whatever. That's what I should have done. But to try to salvage these boxes, because most of them have plenty of bees left in them, and it's brood that emerged from the split I put in there, so they're young bees. I don't want to waste them. I don't want to put them back in the honey colonies because they're all big enough. So this morning I grafted 3 bars of cells, which would be 45 total, and I found the 3 strongest nuke boxes with the most bees, and a couple of them I shook some frames of bees in there from queen right colonies, and I put 1 bar in each of them, and I'm treating them as cell starters. And then if any of y'all have seen in one of his videos, Bob Benny mentioned placing 48-hour queen cells into splits or nukes. So I'm going to try that on these nukes that failed and are queenless. I'm going to put a 48-hour cell in there. And they should build it out fine, just one, with the amount of bees they got in there, I would think. I'm going to give it a shot anyway. The downside is, if they take, they're going to be really delayed and behind everything else. They won't be laying for another month probably. So that's the downside, but the upside is I have another 23 queen out of it. So what I figured I'd do with this video is take you to each mating yard that I go to as I'm checking for queens, and I'll just kind of tell you why I set it up there and why I think it's a good spot, and give you the results of the queens, what percentages I get and everything. So here's this yard. Got 42 nukes here total. I put them all against this big tree pile here. The tree pile is on the west side, so in the afternoon they're in the shade. And our predominant winds out of the west to the southwest, so it should protect them from that. What I don't like about it is I got them, in my opinion, I got them in here pretty close together. I really try to avoid that because I feel like the closer they are together, the more often the queen's going to go back to the wrong box and get killed. And I just feel like if I got the room, then I might as well use it and spread them out. The downside is it's not as efficient because you're going to do more walking around checking them, and it's farther away from your vehicle and all that stuff. But I really want a queen to come back, so I'll do the extra work as long as it works out. This yard started off great. Started off that group and I was working my way this way, and so from there back I only had 2 duds or 2 misses. One had a virgin in there, but I killed her off because she looked terrible. And then from this point on, it just kept getting worse and worse. And then down there towards the end, it seemed like it was really bad. So that one, if it's queenless or something wrong, I put something on top to mark it. And here I got plenty of sticks, so that's what I use. Those two are queenless. That one's queenless. It's one of my cell starters. I got a bar of cells in there. That one had a virgin in it, but I killed her off because I didn't like the way she looked. There had a good looking queen in there. I found her and marked her, but I think she's a drone layer. I'm going to give her just a little bit of time to make sure, but I'm almost positive she's a drone layer. So I'll give her the hive tool test and put a queen cell in there. This group was good, except two of them were emergency queens. I could tell either the cell I put in there was bad or they killed her as she came out and they went with their queen, but she's mated and laying, so I'll take her. That one found a virgin in there. She looked all right, so I kept her. Another virgin there. And then this one y'all saw me on camera going through. Didn't see a virgin, but I think there's probably one in there. They'll get a queen cell as well, and if they have a virgin, they'll tear it down. And if they don't have a virgin, then they'll probably take care of it and let it mature. So this yard was 33 out of 42 laying queens, and I might be being kind of generous with myself, but I'm counting those two emergency queens that are laying already. I'm not counting the virgins. So however you want to look at it, 33 out of 42 is 78%, which is not good. We had excellent weather conditions, the best I've ever had for getting queens mated. So I was really hoping I was thinking I could get around 90%. But who knows, this is one yard. We'll go to the other ones and see how we did there. So here I'm going to do a little bit of weed eating, and I'll see y'all at the next yard. Well, while I was weed eating, I remembered I forgot to tell y'all one thing. I forgot to tell y'all why I put this mating yard here. So when you're trying to get queens mated, it's always important you need lots of drones. Because the more drones the queen mates with, the better. And drones are going to come from mature colonies. The thing is, queens will fly a greater distance from their colony, and the reason for that is she's trying to get away from drones from her own colony to avoid inbreeding. But when you're grafting, what she doesn't know is she's not related to the drones in her area. But anyway, so some people say queens will fly a mile or 2 miles or whatever. I don't know what it is, but they fly a lot farther than drones do. Drones will fly a quarter or a half a mile maybe, because they're bigger and they have to refuel to keep flying in their congregation areas. So the reason I put this yard here is I have a yard of bees about a mile that way, and then I have another yard of bees in the opposite direction about a mile that way. I used my phone, and it just turns out that this spot right here is like almost dead center between the two. So that's why I put them here. The queens that I did get back and that are laying, they look really good. They're really big, looks like they're well mated. Probably do a good job. So now I'll see y'all at the next yard. Yard number 2. Figured I'd film the last couple here. Don't want to jinx it, but so far this one's turned out pretty good. Got a capped brood here, so this will be the queen I put in there. Had a little better luck with that in this yard. And I've been thinking about it and thinking about it, about why I would have as many queens as I have that are not from the cell I put in there. And I think I've come up with a good hypothesis. I should have thought of it to begin with, but it never hit me. But I think what I'm seeing is the results of these splits swarming with the queen that I put in there. That's what I think. For whatever reason, they may have felt like they were split too strong and just got the impulse, so they figured they'd leave with the queen that I put in there. And if that's the case, there she is, the last side of the last frame. So like I was saying, if my guess is right about them swarming with my queen and then leaving behind swarm cells for the split, that is oh so frustrating. You put in all that time and effort to get the queen out of the deal that you want, the genetics, and then they just up and leave. And there's a highly productive queen out there somewhere that I'm not going to get to see the benefit of. But I guess that means in the future I need to pay a little closer attention and not make my splits too strong. I didn't think I was though, but bees are telling me otherwise, I think. Drawing a little bit of wax. Got eggs, there's the queen. Another blackie, so this will be mine. All right, yard number 2. A little better than the previous one. Got 31 splits here, and they're all spread out more than the previous yard. And then I've got 11 or so. There's 2 under that tree over there. And there's some trees back over there. I got some. So I'll give you the numbers on this yard. 31 total. There's one over there that accidentally got the queen from the parent colony. So I freshened up her yellow dot, and I'll take her back. I know probably where she came from. Anyway, 1, so that wouldn't count. And then the whole swarming hypothesis, I think 7 out of the 31 total swarmed because they have queens in them right now that I can tell I didn't put in there. Of those 7, 6 of them are laying queens as of right now. One of them I saw a virgin queen running around. She looked decent, so I left her. So out of the whole 31 bunch, all of them are laying queens except that one virgin, but one of the laying queens is the queen from the parent colony. So I don't know how other, like, bigger beekeeping operations, if they calculate their percentage, if they count them emergency or swarm queens. I don't know if they I'd count that as a yay or a nay. Probably a yay because they get a new queen out of it, but me, I'm a little harsher grader. It's like, that's not the queen I put in there to get out of the deal, so I don't want to count it as a success. But so the 22 queen, if we take her out, and then if we do, say, 29 out of 30 success, be 96%. If you didn't count the swarm queens, that would be 23 out of 30. It'd be that same 76%. So I don't know. Y'all tell me. Those swarm queens that are laying, though, they don't look half bad, so I'm tempted to call it a success. So this yard, why I put it here, got these trees. I like to put splits around trees. I think the bees orient to them real good. They're all different, you know. And I don't put them in a straight line or anything. Try to face them all different directions. And this is kind of the same setup as the last yard. Over the hill here and down yonder, I got a yard of 24 colonies. It's a little less than a mile, but pretty close to it. And about 100 degrees, 180 degrees that way, got another yard with 20 colonies and just about the same distance. So, oh, and then I got, so that direction, which would be almost 90 from the other two, 90 degrees. Probably, it's probably right at a mile, maybe a hair more. I got 10 colonies. So I think this should be a pretty good mating location. Everywhere I've set out I think's good, but this one and the next two are probably my best. So I'll see y'all at the next one. Here we are, yard number 3, I believe. We have 30 nukes in this immediate area. This yard turned out all right. We have a total of, out of the 30, we got 20 laying queens right now. And then I had 4 where I saw a virgin running around. So they had swarmed and they haven't mated yet. And then 1 looked flat out queenless. So they'll get a 48-hour queen cell tomorrow. This yard isn't optimal in my opinion as far as what's here. Like, there's no trees or anything at this immediate spot. So if I tried to use these sagebrush kind of to my advantage to give the bees something to orient to, and then that plum thicket over there. But this spot relative to my other, like my main production hives, it's excellent. Because I've got a yard probably 1.5 miles that way. And then probably one, so that way, and then just that way I probably got one 1 mile or a little less. And then 180 degrees, I got 1 mile or so that way. And then probably a couple miles that way, and maybe 1.25 miles that way. So this spot's kind of in the middle of everything I got, so it geographically it's excellent. And I imagine the only bad thing about it is it's kind of up here high exposed, so the wind will hit this yard pretty bad if we get any. But got lucky this year, I think, and got some excellent mating conditions. So might have missed a potential problem there. So right over the hill there, just a couple 100 yards, I got a group of 34. So we'll go look at them real fast. And here's the second half of this yard. We got 34 spread out here. Got a nice little spot. Got a windmill over there with some water, and then the overflow's going down there and makes a pond. So bees got easy access to fresh water. And the little yard, or the other half of this spot that we came from, is just right over that hill. Went through these girls, and the worst one yet, as far as getting the queen back that I put in there. Lots of swarming from these. I've been able to pretty much confirm it. A bunch of them here. This is the last set of nukes I put out. So a bunch of these I went through, and the ones that didn't have a laying queen, they had little, or they weren't little, but they had queen cells all over the place. You could see where some had emerged and some had been killed. So they obviously swarmed out of there, and now I'm left with the queen that they made. Oh, super frustrating. But, so out of the 34 here, I got 22 laying queens. And then I have 11 that I saw the virgin running around in there. And then one, I couldn't find anything. They have tons of bees in there. I really think they have a virgin, but I couldn't find her. So I'm going to stick a queen cell in them, see what happens. So if you just count the laying queens, I got 22 out of 34, right at 67 or 8%, which is terrible. But if all those virgins I saw, if they come back and start laying, then I'll have a different outlook. But with a virgin, you don't have anything. You don't have anything without a laying queen, because there's tons of bad things that can happen between her right now and then coming back mated with the wind and predators out there. There's so many things that can go wrong. So can't count your eggs before they're hatched. So I'll come back in a week or so and check all the ones with virgin queens. Hopefully get some more 23 queens out of the deal, even if they're not the ones I wanted. But so next year, or even later this year, but for sure next year, got to make sure and make my splits weaker than I have been. I may have to go to one brood frame splits. I don't know. Anyways, on to the next one. What's happening, everybody? We're here at the fourth and final mating yard. It's the next day. Ended up going through these nukes this morning through a little bit of a sprinkle and light rain. Wasn't very fun, but needed to get it done. And more disappointment in this yard, as you might expect. Had more swarming, and I'm left with the swarm queens. Had a total of 59 set out here. Ended up with 44 mated and laying queens. So that's right, almost 75%. And of those 44, only 30 are the ones from the cell that I put in there. Numbers I hate putting on camera, but got to show the bad with the good, if there is any good. I guess there's a little bit. I think I'm making it out worse, to be worse than it is. I got, just like the other places, I got ones with several with virgins running around. So I'll have to make another round through here later to see if they made it back and if they're laying. And I think my plan is gonna be to, once they lay up some brood and it gets capped, I think I may graft some more queen cells and have a cell ready, and I'll kill that queen and put one of my cells in there. That's my plan now, but I change my mind a lot, so it's liable to change. So this is probably my favorite yard. It's got this long tree line here, something really good for the bees to orient to. It's a nice windbreak. Downside is it can get pretty humid and stuffy working in this yard. But if you time it right, you can work in the shade in the afternoon, so that's a plus. Was definitely hoping for better numbers out of my nukes. I think in the end I'm gonna end up with a significant amount of new queens, but you know, I grafted from the two queens that I did for a specific reason, for those genetics, and to not get them back and to know they're out there somewhere, not in my boxes, is pretty dang aggravating. But I guess I'll just have to make some more queens and make up for that. In the future, I'm either gonna have to make my splits not as strong, or I'm gonna have to go back through a few days later and kill off all the cells that they make. Which means more work, but I think that's the way I'm leaning right now. Because I would like my nukes to be, if I can, on the stronger side, so that they build up faster and they're ready to transfer sooner. But I'll just have to take it on as it gets here, I guess. So let's open up some boxes and I'll show y'all why this is so frustrating to me. It's like this box here, I could tell they've swarmed several times, and I saw a virgin in there. As you can tell, there's, you know, it looks better from the top than it is. There's not very many bees in there, maybe a couple frames. That's a box with a queen that swarmed. She's laying. Here's another virgin box. See, that's what I'm talking about. Hardly any bees in there. So even if she does come back and start laying, without my help, it would take them forever to build up and have decent strength. And then these two right here are queens from the cell I put in there. See, a lot stronger. Box, couldn't find a virgin, but I think they got one somewhere. And then these two are from the queen I put in there. See, nice and strong, and they've got a couple of frames of capped brood by now. So all the queens from the cells I put in there, they've all got around 2 frames of capped brood. So in a couple of weeks, they're going to be exploding and need to be transferred into a 10-frame box, and could possibly even make me honey this year. But anything that's swarmed is so far behind, there's no hope for honey production, and just a lot of problems and more work. Just adds more layers of work to do. That's why it's important to get the stuff right the first time. But hopefully I'll learn from it. I'm getting tired of learning stuff the hard way, I'll tell you that. So I'm gonna get around and go get those 48-hour queen cells I talked about earlier and use them up in all the queenless spots and where I didn't see a virgin. So better get to it. So I'll see y'all on the next one.